if a game is going to prioritize exploration as part of its design, does a map marker undermine that quality of the game? So Alex, have you ever been playing around in a game and you get onto the main map and it just gives you all of these different places that you might be able to go?
Okay, so you're talking about the Ubisoft method of here's all the places you can do things at, good luck.
Yes, exactly. That thing. You've been there, right?
I've
Okay,
been to
great.
all of them.
You've been to all of them. So what you'll usually encounter, especially in open world games, is being able to actually set down a marker so that you know where to go. And it got me to thinking about something. About really two games in particular from the same series, which we've talked about on occasion, but I think it's an interesting compare and contrast. And that's Elder Scrolls and Morrowind and Skyrim. Okay. Two of, arguably two of the most beloved parts of the franchise. Those games resonate with people today. But one of the big things that is different between them is your ability to put a marker on the map and then follow it to your destination. And I started thinking about whether this is a good thing or if it's a bad thing. And I'll make kind of the opening arguments for both of these so that you know what we're talking about.
Good.
On the good side, on the positive side, it's pretty straightforward. Being able to actually have a direction of where you're going. Maybe they put down a little thing of fairy dust or something like they did in Fable so that you can track your location. In terms of user interface and the convenience of the player, it can lead to a better player experience so that you don't get lost. However, the opposite side of this, the bad part, is that if I just put map markers down, I'm really just interacting with the user interface itself, the UI, the framework, and I'm just following it from point A to point B. I'm not necessarily experiencing the world itself and the depth therein. If you think about Skyrim, it's great. You can put down multiple map markers. You can follow all of them at the same time. You can put a marker down at all the different holds if you wanted to. If you wanted to,
you
point
can put
to them.
a single map marker down and then have a quest marker in Skyrim. You can't put multiple map markers down.
But you can have multiple quest markers. You can have side quest markers and all of that. You can put those all down at the same time. Okay. In Morrowind, you don't have that. You have a journal that has these long, long lists of text that explain to you what you're supposed to do, and you have actual signs in the world that will lead you to those destinations. So if you want to find a cave, you can't just look at a map and say, I put a marker down and that's where I think I want to go, or follow a quest line and have it tell you where to go. You have to go out into the world, and you have to follow instructions and what people have said and the signs and everything, and you have to pay attention to the world to get to that location. So, the big question here, is it good or bad that we have markers in games?
Well, let me flip this on its head for you, Nathan. You've been around for a little while now.
Longer than I like.
Yeah. Do you remember back in the olden times when we had to write down directions on how to get from point A to point B?
Oh, it's been so long. It's been so long that I've had to do that, but
yeah. And I mean, before our time, you had to use an actual map.
Yeah, you might have had to use an actual map. You remember back in the day when they had the cartridges and everything, and some games would actually come with a physical map of the game world?
Yeah, I still get those once in a while, or not anymore, but I've gotten a few.
Right.
But all right. So in the car, you used to have to, back in the olden times, you'd have to pull up an actual physical giant road map.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And then I think when we were a bit younger, it was you could go online and look at the directions to get there and either print it out,
Right.
get printed out directions, or you could write them down, and then you'd have to follow those
Sure.
on paper. So you'd have your person in the passenger seat navigating for you,
Yep.
telling you, make a right turn here.
Yep.
But nowadays, we don't even need to buy a GPS. Our phones are just equipped with them.
Oh, yeah. You just pull up whatever map app you want, and you go to town. Throw it.
So let me flip this on its head for you. In that case, do you think it's good or bad that you no longer have to pull up a roadmap to find where you want to go?
I mean, from a practical standpoint, obviously, no. Like being able to, just have the little device tell you this is where you're at and this is where you're headed is obviously going to be more convenient.
Yes.
But I do ask, if you're on like a road trip or you're like going somewhere, do you lose something in the experience? Like, am I spending so much time looking at my phone at the map marker in the real world that I'm not actually absorbing the world around me? It's sort of like the same thing between the Skyrim and the Morrowind, that you're not really experiencing the world, you're just getting to where the marker is.
I think you have to come at it from a standpoint of how much time investment you have.
Sure.
Because in our busy modern lives, where we don't have time to pull up a roadmap and do that, even though you could still pull up a roadmap and go to town. But like,
They sell them.
say you've got a meeting for work and it's at this place you've never been.
Yeah.
Do you want to pull up a roadmap?
No.
Do you want to pull up GPS?
Yes.
Yeah, that's 100% more convenient. It becomes a matter of how much investment you can give into that world or this thing. Where do I need to get there quick and efficiently, or do I have time to wander around and meander and find my way there and find all the experiences along the way?
Right.
I think that translates to gaming in that, do we have as much time as adults with our busy work lives and social lives and whatnot, where we can devote time to doing things that are just exploring in a game instead of finding a way to do something and get quests done, for instance.
Okay. Well then I'm gonna flip this on its head one more time for you.
It's just flipping around all over the place.
We're flipping the flipping. If a game is going to prioritize exploration as part of its design, does a map marker undermine that quality of the game?
I feel like if the game is specifically exploration focused, then more or less a map marker might not be useful unless that's the only tool you get. Because in the case of Elite Dangerous, I can set down a map marker. I can set a waypoint on anywhere in the galaxy I want to go, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to divert from that along the way.
Recently I was playing a game called Chernobylite, and in that game, I believe you can pull up a map, you can put down map markers and everything like that, but it has this other interesting mechanic in it to try and define its game world. You have a rad detector. There's a lot of excess radiation. It's at a time period where that is still the case. And of course it's science fiction. But the map itself allows you to see where you might not be able to go. The map markers will not necessarily diverge you around it. However, if you were to pay attention to the signs, and if you were to be holding your rad detector, you might start to realize that there is danger on the horizon. That if I venture too close to the border, all of a sudden the rad detector just like starts to spike and go from like white to yellow to red to oh my god, please stop, and then you know that you're going to start taking health damage. But the game world itself will also inform you a little bit by giving you hazard signs around certain areas of the map, which technically you can wander into, and it's not like anyone will necessarily stop you, but those are hotbeds of radiation, and so it's trying to give you a very real in-game way of seeing that there is something to avoid. I think the reason why it does that is because if you were to look at its user interface, it tries to be fairly minimalistic in how it's presenting itself. I had seen something very similar to that in Metro Exodus when I played that, is that pretty much the map itself, like when you're in the game, there isn't really an interface, so to speak, around you. There's no overlay. Any information that you have is pretty much in-game. If you're looking for the time or data, it's on your watch. If you're looking for your ammo count, it's on the gun itself. And so you don't have these like little mini maps in the corner and map markers all over the place that is going to take you out of the immersion of the experience and the idea that you are indeed trying to explore this world, that is the focal point of it. So I've seen it done where they can help you essentially navigate the world and even get to your objectives while minimizing the pretty straightforward marker that you can set down. And I think it's very good when they try to do that in a creative way, to try and keep giving you direction while being immersive, so that you don't get lost, but also that you don't find things immediately, that you actually have to, think about the world a little bit and kind of get out of your comfort zone instead of just following the shiny point. Do you have an example of a game that did navigation points like that well?
I mean, I played Assassin's Creed, but that's got tons of map markers on it.
It's every map marker. When you can pull up your bird, and your bird is just like soaring over the top, there are like giant lights in the sky of silver and gold that just resonate all over the map, and it's like it hits you like a freight train. Like it's just everything is highlighted at the same time. There is a danger too with highlighting so much, because then it's just like a sea of lights. It has little context to it. Well, then I guess I'll just ask you, if you had to choose between having a marker to follow or to not have a marker to follow in a game, what would you prefer?
I'd rather have a marker I can choose to follow.
The option.
I like the option being there rather than no option.
Yeah, that's fair. If you can make it optional, but I don't necessarily have to have it on, I'm good with that. I am familiar with like what you were talking about with Morrowind, and even old school World of Warcraft used to have that too, where you had to read the entire quest description and figure out where the heck you were going. Right.
Yeah. Which is fine if you've got the time to devote to deciphering a quest.
Yeah. The one other thing that I would say is that if you're going to implement quest markers and the like, I would really appreciate it if I could have multiple quest markers. The only reason I say that is because there is a certain break in flow if I have to go and start choosing which quest I want to follow in some list, which I've had to do in many, many games. I would pass the question on to all of you. Do you like to have map markers, and would you prefer to have them in the game? More importantly than that, though, I'm looking for suggestions of how games have done a unique job of guiding your character from point A to point B.
On-rails chase scene.
Yeah, just make a game that's a tunnel.
The English Channel.
The English Channel. The game.
The game.
Great. Love
Tunnel
it.
Quest 2023.
Shuttle Quest 2023.
Yeah.
Well, there's the episode title. Great.